The celestial archives floated in the void between stars, its crystalline spires reflecting the light of distant suns. Deep within its labyrinthine halls, past security measures that could stop armies, resided the most feared being in known space. Cathax, the eternal guardian, stood motionless before the Nexus Gate, as they had for over 10,000 years. Visitors to the archives whispered stories about the ancient warrior. Some said Cathax was a living weapon forged in the dying breath of a civilization long forgotten. Others claimed they were the last of an extinct race, bound by honor to protect something so dangerous it could unravel reality itself. The truth, like Cathax themselves, remained shrouded in mystery. The warrior's form defied conventional description. Their armor, if it could be called that, seemed to shift between solid matter and pure energy. Patterns of light coursed through their body like blood through veins, pulsing with power older than most civilizations. Cathax's face was a smooth, featureless mask that occasionally rippled with symbols from languages dead for millennia. Administrator Vexthor, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate mechanical shell, drifted through the security checkpoint leading to Cathax's chamber. Even after centuries of overseeing the archives, the administrator still felt a primal urge to flee whenever they approached the Guardian. Great One. Vexthor's voice emanated from their shell in carefully measured tones. The Council sends their respects. Another century has passed. We must verify your continued commitment to your duty. Cathax remained motionless, their response resonating directly in Vexthor's consciousness rather than traveling through the air. I endure. The gate remains sealed. Leave me to my vigil. The administrator lingered, nervous appendages of energy crackling within their shell. There are concerns, Great One. The humans, their expansion reaches further every day. Their curiosity knows no bounds. They ask questions about the archives, about you. For the first time in decades, Cathax moved. Their head turned slightly toward Vexthor, and the symbols on their mask shifted faster. Humans. Young. Reckless. Like children playing with fire. Yes, exactly. Vexthor's relief at finding agreement was palpable. The Council suggests increasing security measures. Perhaps relocating the gate. No. Cathax's response hit like a physical force, causing Vexthor's shell to shudder. The gate stays. I stay. Let the humans come with their questions. They will learn, as all others have learned. Some barriers are not meant to be crossed. The administrator retreated hastily, their shell whistling with barely contained anxiety. As they fled through the checkpoints, Cathax returned to their eternal stance. But something had changed. The patterns of light flowing through their form pulsed with a new rhythm, like a heart beating faster at the prospect of something long awaited. In the darkness of their vigil, Cathax accessed ancient memory cores, reviewing everything known about humanity. Such a young species, barely out of their cradle world, yet already reaching for the stars with unprecedented speed. They had survived wars, plagues, and disasters that should have ended them. Where other races saw barriers, humans saw challenges. Where others retreated, humans advanced. For the first time in millennia, Cathax felt something beyond their duty. It was curiosity, an emotion they thought had died with their original form eons ago. The humans would come. It was inevitable. The real question was, would they be like all the others, fleeing in terror at the sight of the Guardian? Or would they be something new? The symbols on Cathax's mask settled into a pattern unseen for thousands of years. If anyone had been present to witness it, and if they had known the long-dead language, they would have recognized it as a smile. In the vast chambers above, Vexthor frantically composed messages to the Council. Reports of Cathax showing interest in anything were unprecedented. For 10,000 years, the Guardian had been a constant, unchanging force, as immovable as the laws of physics themselves. Now, at the mere mention of humans, they had shifted, spoken more words than in the past century combined. The Council's response was swift and predictable. Increase security, restrict access, protect the gate at all costs. But as the archives hummed with heightened activity, Kothax stood unmoving before the Nexus Gate, waiting. The patterns of light coursing through their form now pulsed with something that might have been anticipation. The humans would come. And perhaps, after 10,000 years of solitude, that wasn't such a terrible thing. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the holographic display in her cramped research vessel, studying the encrypted transmissions she'd intercepted from the celestial archives. After 3 years of tracking whispers and rumors across 17 star systems, she'd finally found something concrete about the mysterious guardian that haunted her dreams. The archive's security protocols were legendary, but they hadn't counted on human ingenuity, or on someone crazy enough to spend months analyzing radiation patterns from their quantum communications. Sarah's ship, the Curiosity's Child, wasn't much to look at, but its sensors were state-of-the-art, cobbled together from half a dozen alien technologies she'd modified herself. Running analysis on subject designated Kothax again, her ship's AI announced, its voice carefully neutral. Dr. Chen, this marks the 47th time you've reviewed this data. I feel compelled to remind you that approaching the archives without clearance is a Class 1 violation of Galactic law. Sarah brushed a strand of graying hair from her face, her dark eyes never leaving the display. Note your objection, Max, and then help me find a way in that doesn't trigger their quantum sensors. The AI sighed, a very human gesture it had picked up from her. The last xenorchaeologist who attempted to study Kothax was atomized at the security perimeter. The one before that simply vanished. Their ships, their data, everything, gone without a trace. Those researchers were looking for weapons, for power, Sarah replied, her fingers dancing across the holographic controls. I just want to understand. 10,000 years of history, Max. 10,000 years of watching, waiting, guarding. What does that do to a being? What secrets do they keep? Before Max could respond, a new alert flashed across the display. Sarah's eyes widened as she processed the information. There, that energy signature. The archive's defenses are calibrated for quantum tunneling, phase shifting, even temporal displacement. But they're not looking for something this simple. The AI analyzed the data, its processors humming. A maintenance channel. Dr. Chen, surely you're not suggesting. The archives might be the most secure facility in the galaxy, but someone still has to clean the place. Sarah grinned. And maintenance protocols are maintenance protocols, no matter how advanced the civilization. They're universal constants. Hours later, the Curiosity's Child drifted silently through the debris field surrounding the archives, its hull reconfigured to mimic the energy signature of authorized maintenance drones. Sarah's heart pounded as they passed through the first security checkpoint, then the second. No alarms, no atomization fields, no vanishing into the void. I strongly advise against this course of action, Max said as Sarah donned her environmental suit. The probability of survival, if detected, is higher than my chances of living with myself if I don't try. Sarah finished. She checked her suit's seals one final time. Keep the engines hot, Max. And remember, if you're not back in 6 hours, initiate the emergency broadcast revealing the location of your research data to every scientific institution in human space, the AI recited. Though I fail to see how posthumous academic recognition will benefit you. Sarah smiled behind her helmet. It's not about recognition. It's about making sure someone continues the work. Knowledge shouldn't die with the seeker. She paused at the airlock. But let's hope it doesn't come to that. The interior of the archives was a maze of crystalline corridors that seemed to bend reality itself, but Sarah's research hadn't been for nothing. She followed the maintenance passages, her suit's sensors guiding her through paths untouched by organic feet for centuries. Each step brought her closer to the chamber that had consumed her thoughts for years. Finally, she stood before the last barrier. A door that thrummed with enough energy to power a small sun. Beyond it waited Kothax, the eternal guardian. Sarah's hand hovered over the door's ancient control panel as doubt crept in. Was she really about to throw away her life's work, possibly her actual life, on the slim chance of making contact? Yes, she whispered to herself. Yes, I am. The door opened. Kothax stood exactly as descriptions had placed them for millennia. A towering figure of impossible geometry and shifting light, faced away from the entrance, guarding something Sarah couldn't quite look at directly. The air itself seemed to vibrate with power. Sarah took a step forward, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Hello, Kothax. My name is Dr. Sarah Chen. I've come a very long way to meet you. The guardian didn't move, but Sarah felt a presence brush against her mind, ancient and vast. Human, you risk much coming here. Knowledge is worth the risk, Sarah replied. And loneliness. Loneliness is a terrible burden, even for an eternal guardian. For the first time in centuries, Kothax turned away from their vigil, facing the small human who had dared to breach their solitude. The symbols on their mask shifted rapidly, forming patterns that spoke of surprise, curiosity, and something else. Something that might have been hope. Tell me, Dr. Sarah Chen. Kothax's thoughts resonated in her mind. What makes you think I am lonely? Sarah smiled, taking another step forward. Because in 10,000 years of records, I'm the first person who's ever asked. Administrator Vexthor's shell crackled with barely contained energy as they watched the security feeds. The human female had been visiting Kothax daily for 2 weeks now, and the council was in an uproar. More disturbing than the security breach was Kothax's response. The Eternal Guardian was talking, moving, engaging in ways unprecedented in their 10,000-year vigil. In the chamber below, Sarah sat cross-legged on the floor, her environmental suit discarded after Kothax had adjusted the room's atmosphere to support human life. She held up a small holographic projector, showing images of Earth's ancient ruins. We have guardians too, she explained, gesturing to stone statues weathered by millennia. Different cultures, different times, but always the same duty: to protect, to watch, to remember. Kothax moved closer, the light patterns in their form shifting to match the rhythms of Sarah's speech. Your species is young, yet you understand the weight of time. Most races your age think only of the present, the immediate. Maybe that's why I'm here. Sarah smiled. Most humans look forward, but some of us need to look back, to understand where we came from, where we're going. She hesitated, then asked the question that had burned in her mind for years. Kothax, what are you guarding? What's behind the Nexus Gate? The Guardian's form stilled, symbols freezing on their mask. Sarah held her breath, wondering if she'd finally pushed too far. But when Kothax spoke, their mental voice carried no anger, only a deep ancient sadness. Imagine, Dr. Chen, a power that could rewrite the laws of reality itself. Not merely travel between dimensions, but the ability to create them, destroy them, reshape the very fabric of existence. Now imagine that power in the hands of beings who had not yet learned wisdom. Sarah's eyes widened as understanding dawned. Your people, they created something they couldn't control. We created something we should never have dreamed of, Kothax corrected. The gate leads to the Nexus, a point where all realities intersect. My people fought to use it to perfect our civilization, to correct our mistakes, to become gods. The Guardian's form dimmed. Instead, we nearly unmade creation itself. Above them, Vexthor's surveillance feeds suddenly crackled with interference. The administrator's shell whirred in confusion as new alerts flooded their systems. Something was approaching the archives. Something that shouldn't have been able to pierce their defenses. Sarah was about to respond when a deep tremor ran through the archive's crystalline structure. Kothax's head snapped up, their form blazing with sudden intensity. We are breached. Alarms blared throughout the facility as massive ships appeared from quantum space, their designs unlike anything in known space. On their hulls, symbols glowed that matched those on Kothax's mask. Symbols of a civilization meant to be long dead. Impossible, Kothax's mental voice thundered. They were all gone. I was the last. Sarah scrambled to her feet as the chamber shook. Kothax, what's happening? Who are they? The architects. The Guardians' response carried millennia of buried pain. The ones who built the gate. The ones who made me what I am. But they died. I watched them die, watched our reality tear itself apart, until nothing remained but the gate and my duty to guard it. Through the Archive's crystal walls, they could see the massive ships taking position, their weapons charging with reality-warping energy. Sarah's mind raced, connecting pieces of a puzzle she'd spent years assembling. Unless they didn't die, she said quietly. Unless they used the gate one last time, sent themselves forward, waiting for a moment when the Archives would be vulnerable. When their last guardian might be distracted. Kothax turned to her, the symbols on their mask-forming patterns she'd learned to recognize as distress. They mean to open the gate again, to continue the work that nearly destroyed existence itself. The Guardian's form seemed to grow larger, more terrible. I cannot permit it. Even if they are my creators, my people, I cannot. Sarah reached out, her hand passing through Kothax's energy field in a gesture that would have killed most beings. But Kothax had adapted their form to her presence, just as they had adapted the chamber's atmosphere. You're not alone this time, she said firmly. And humans, we're pretty good at finding new solutions to old problems. Above them, the ships of the architects opened fire, their weapons tearing through the Archive's legendary defenses like paper. As crystal walls began to shatter and reality itself seemed to warp around them, Sarah pulled out a small device she'd been working on in secret, a hybrid of human ingenuity and the fragments of knowledge she'd gleaned from her talks with Kothax. Your people tried to perfect reality, she said, activating the device. But sometimes the most perfect solution is simply letting go of the past. Are you ready to try something new? Kothax looked at the human who had breached their solitude, who had treated them not as a weapon or a relic, but as a being worthy of understanding. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Guardian made a choice that had nothing to do with their duty. Yes, Kothax said, their form beginning to pulse with new purpose. Show me your way, Dr. Sarah Chen. Reality buckled as the architect's weapons tore through the Archive's defenses. Crystalline walls shattered like frozen dreams, their fragments hanging suspended in air that no longer obeyed physical laws. In the heart of the chaos, Sarah Chen and Kothax stood before the Nexus Gate, preparing for a battle that would determine the fate of existence itself. Sarah's device hummed in her hands, its hybrid technology pulsing in harmony with Kothax's energy field. She had designed it based on a theory that had consumed her nights for weeks, that Kothax's power wasn't just about guarding the gate, but about resonating with it, maintaining a frequency that kept reality stable. They're coming. Kothax's mental voice resonated with ancient power. My creators, my people, they cannot comprehend failure. They will tear apart the cosmos itself to prove their perfection. Through the breach in the Archive's walls, massive figures emerged, beings of pure energy and impossible geometry, like Kothax but unfettered, unbound by duty or restraint. Their forms rippled with the same symbols that marked Kothax's mask, but where the Guardian's patterns spoke of protection and vigilance, theirs screamed of dominion and control. Faithful Kothax, the lead architect's thoughts boomed through their minds. 10,000 years of duty, of isolation, of waste. Step aside. Let us finish what we began. Let us perfect all of creation. Sarah felt Kothax's form pulse with emotion, grief, anger, and something deeper. You already perfected creation. The Guardian responded. You perfected it by leaving it alone. The architects surged forward, their forms warping space itself. And you, human, their leader's attention fell on Sarah like a physical weight. How dare you interfere in matters beyond your comprehension? Your species is an infant, crawling in the cosmic dark. Sarah stood her ground, the device in her hands growing warmer. Maybe that's our strength. We're young enough to know we don't know everything, wise enough to understand that some powers aren't meant to be controlled. Foolish creatures, The architect's form expanded, filling the chamber with terrifying light. We created Kothax to guard our greatest achievement. We can unmake them just as easily. Energy lashed out, reality warping force meant to unravel Kothax's very existence. But Sarah was ready. She activated her device, and suddenly the chamber filled with a new frequency, a harmony of human innovation and ancient power. Kothax's form stabilized, strengthened by the resonance Sarah had discovered. "You created me to guard," Kothax's voice thundered. "But this human taught me to protect. There is a difference." The Guardian's power merged with Sarah's device, creating a field that made reality itself resist the architect's attempts to reshape it. For the first time, uncertainty rippled through their ancient forms. "What is this?" their leader demanded. "What have you done?" Sarah smiled grimly. Kothax spent 10,000 years learning the music of existence, how reality wants to flow, how to maintain the balance. You want to impose your will on creation. We're just helping creation impose its will on you. The architects attacked again, their combined power enough to shatter solar systems. But Sarah's device amplified Kothax's natural resonance with reality, turning the Guardian's defensive power into something new. Where the architects tried to bend space and time, Kothax and the device worked together to unbend it, to maintain the natural order they had protected for so long. "You cannot stop progress." The architects raged as their powers were neutralized. "We are the shapers of reality, the perfecters of existence." "No," Kothax replied, their form blazing with newfound purpose. "You are the past, and like all pasts, you must be remembered, but not repeated." In a final surge of desperation, the architects attempted to force open the Nexus Gate itself. Reality groaned as they tore at the fabric of existence, but Sarah had planned for this too. She adjusted her device's frequency, matching it to the gate's own resonance. "Kothax," she called out. Together, Guardian and human moved as one. Kothax's ancient power flowed through Sarah's device, creating a cascade of harmonizing frequencies. The gate didn't just remain closed, it began to sing, a sound that rippled through dimensions, a song of order restored. The architects' forms began to unravel, not destroyed but transformed. Their energy, their very essence, was being drawn into the same resonance that Kothax had maintained for millennia. They fought, but they couldn't resist the fundamental nature of reality itself, the nature they had tried so hard to perfect and control. "What have you done to us?" Their leader's voice faded. "What are we becoming?" "What you always should have been," Kothax answered softly. "Part of creation, not its masters." One by one, the architects dissolved, their energy merging with the natural frequencies of space and time. Not destroyed, but dispersed, becoming part of the reality they had sought to dominate. In moments, only Kothax and Sarah remained in the shattered chamber, the Nexus Gate humming behind them with renewed strength. Sarah's device powered down, its work complete. She looked up at Kothax, whose form now pulsed with a steadier, more harmonious light. "Are you all right?" The Guardian's mask displayed symbols she had never seen before. Not grief, not victory, but something like peace. For the first time in 10,000 years, Dr. Sarah Chen, "I believe I am." 1 year after the battle at the Archives, the Galactic Council gathered in their grand chamber, its walls still bearing the scars of reality-warping energies. Representatives from 1,000 worlds watched as Dr. Sarah Chen took the podium, Kothax's towering form beside her casting patterns of light across the assembled delegates. "The Nexus Gate remains sealed," Sarah began, her voice carrying across the hushed chamber. "But its purpose has changed. What was once a source of fear has become a source of understanding." The chamber's holographic displays showed images of the transformed archives. Where there had once been barriers and warnings, now there were research stations. Scholars from across the galaxy worked together, studying the harmonious frequencies that Kothax and Sarah had discovered during their battle with the architects. "We learned that power isn't about control," Sarah continued, glancing up at Kothax. It's about resonance, about finding the natural rhythms of existence and working with them, not against them. Kothax's form pulsed gently, their mental voice reaching every mind in the chamber. For 10,000 years, I stood guard alone, believing isolation was the price of protection. Dr. Chen showed me that true protection comes from connection, from understanding. Administrator Vexthor, their shell now decorated with marks of high office, floated forward. The council has reviewed your proposal to transform the archives from a prison into a center of learning. It is unprecedented. Like humans approaching ancient guardians. Sarah smiled. Sometimes unprecedented is exactly what we need. The archives had become something new. Kothax still guarded the Nexus Gate, but no longer in solitude. Their chamber had become a place where scientists and philosophers from across the galaxy came to study, to learn, to understand the delicate balance of reality itself. Sarah's device, refined and improved through collaboration with Kothax, had revealed new principles about the nature of existence. The architect's dream of perfection had been misguided, but their understanding of reality's underlying harmonies held valuable lessons. The humans have a saying. Kothax addressed the council, symbols of warmth and wisdom flowing across their mask, that the best teachers were once students themselves. For millennia, I thought my duty was to stand unchanging. Now I understand that true guardianship means growing, learning, sharing. The council chamber erupted in discussion as Sarah and Kothax presented their vision for the future. The archives would remain secure, but no longer through fear and isolation. Instead, it would be protected by understanding, by the combined wisdom of all species working together to comprehend the delicate balance they sought to maintain. Later, in the quiet of their chamber, Sarah sat with Kothax before the Nexus Gate. The gate's hum had changed over the past year, becoming something more melodious, as if it too had learned to resonate more harmoniously with existence. The architects would never have imagined this. Sarah mused, watching patterns of light dance across the chamber walls. Their greatest creation, becoming a teacher instead of a weapon. They sought to perfect reality by forcing it to change, Kothax replied. You taught me that true perfection lies in helping reality perfect itself. The Guardian's form shifted, displaying the symbols Sarah had come to recognize as affection. Humans truly are remarkable creatures. We're just young enough to know we have everything to learn. Sarah smiled. And just stubborn enough to keep trying until we learn it. Through the chamber's restored crystal walls, they could see ships arriving from across the galaxy, carrying new scholars eager to study at the archives. Each one would learn the lesson that Sarah and Kothax had discovered together, that the greatest power lies not in controlling existence, but in understanding it. The Nexus Gate hummed behind them, no longer a threat to reality, but a reminder of how far they had come. Kothax's eternal vigil had transformed into an eternal journey of discovery, shared with all who wished to learn. What do you think the future holds? Sarah asked, watching the streams of visitors arrive. Kothax's form pulsed with the gentle light of certainty. The future holds what it always has, Dr. Sarah Chen, infinite possibilities. But now we face them together. Above them, the stars shone on a galaxy transformed not by force or fear, but by understanding and connection. The Eternal Guardian had found a new purpose, and humanity had shown once again that the greatest adventures begin with a single step toward the unknown. In the end, it wasn't power that had changed the universe. It was the simple courage to reach out, to listen, and to learn.